Losing a loved one is a deeply painful experience. The absence, the silence, and the void that remains are hard to bear. But what happens when we feel that this absence is not total? And when we have the sensation that they are still nearby somehow? Why do some people report impressive experiences of contact with the souls of their deceased loved ones, while others wait for years for a single sign that never comes? If you have ever experienced this doubt, know that you are not alone. Throughout history, in all cultures and religions, there are accounts of apparitions, dreams, sensations, and signs left by those who have departed. But how does this work? What determines who receives a message from beyond and who remains waiting? Is there any pattern, or is it all just coincidence? Many people share impressive stories. Some describe encounters in dreams where they receive clear messages. Others talk about objects that inexplicably move, music that plays by itself at the right moment, or even animals that appear mysteriously, carrying the presence of someone special. But what does this mean? Are these real manifestations, or just projections of our minds trying to cope with the pain of loss? Today, we are going to explore this mystery. We will understand why some people have contact with their deceased loved ones and others do not. And more importantly, what we can do to become more receptive to these signs, in case they are trying to communicate with us. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you won't miss the next videos. In doing so, you support our work and help us bring more content on topics as fascinating as this one. Now let's dive into this issue. Many people wonder if contacts with souls are random events, or if there is some reason why certain individuals have experiences and others do not. To understand this, we need to look at three main factors that influence this phenomenon: the person's emotional state, the connection they had with the deceased, and the level of spiritual openness they possess. The first factor is the emotional state. Studies on spiritual phenomena show that deep pain can, paradoxically, block contact with departed loved ones. This is because when we are in intense suffering, our mind closes off. Grief, especially in the initial moments, puts us in a state of shock and sadness that makes us less receptive to any subtle experience. That is why often the signs from the souls do not come immediately after death, but only after we manage to find a bit of inner peace. The second factor is the emotional connection with the one who departed. Many stories show that the bond between souls continues even after death. An impressive example is that of Margaret, a woman from Texas who lost her husband after 42 years of marriage. Despite the pain, she felt his presence at specific moments when she tended the garden where the two used to spend time together. It was as if that connection was so strong that it transcended the physical separation. Another interesting example is that of the Roberts family from Minnesota. After the father's death, the eldest son began to see him in persistent dreams. Initially, he thought it was just longing, but over time, he realized that the dreams always revolved around the family business. It was then that he remembered a promise he made to his father in life: to continue the business. As soon as he decided not to sell the company, the dreams ceased. This raises an important question. Do spirits try to guide us to fulfill what was left unfinished? The third factor that influences contact with souls is the level of spiritual receptivity. Not everyone believes in these phenomena, and many completely close themselves off to the possibility that something beyond the material may exist. John, a skeptic from Florida, spent most of his life denying any possibility of spiritual contact. His family frequently reported strange experiences after his mother's death, but he never saw or felt anything. Until one day, in a moment of great personal difficulty, he decided to simply allow himself to feel, and it was at that moment that the signs began to appear. This story teaches us something essential. Sometimes the signs are there, but we do not perceive them because our mind is not open to seeing them. Another interesting aspect is that these contacts often happen in significant places or on meaningful dates. Many report that they feel the presence of their loved ones in places full of memories, such as an old house, a garden, or even a park bench where they used to talk. Arizona, a woman who visits the garden where her grandmother used to grow roses every year, reports that she always feels something special in that place. As if somehow her grandmother's presence was still there, watching over the flowers she loved so much. And it is not only places that hold such importance. Many people report that the manifestations occur on specific dates, such as birthdays, death anniversaries, or important holidays. A curious example is that of the Anderson family from Minnesota, who every year on Christmas Eve feel the presence of their grandmother Betty. When she was alive, she always prepared a special dinner and decorated the house with great care. Now, even after her passing, her family says they feel her presence on that symbolic date. Another fascinating point about these contacts is that they often occur during the so-called liminal moments. That is, periods of the day when our mind is more receptive, such as just before sleep or at dawn. Many people claim to feel a stronger connection during these transitional moments between wakefulness and sleep. But the most surprising thing is that souls do not always choose the obvious moments and locations to manifest. Jennifer, from Oregon, says that one day, while having coffee at a random place, she felt a strong sensation of her father's presence. Later, she discovered that it was his favorite cafe when he was young, something she had not even known. These events show that sometimes souls try to guide us to discoveries about their history, helping us to better understand who they were. Another common means of contact is through dreams. When we sleep, our rational mind relaxes, allowing more subtle experiences to occur. That is why so many people report vivid dreams with their deceased loved ones, receiving important messages, or simply feeling their presence. The Thompson family from Georgia experienced something impressive. After their father's death, the three children dreamed of him on the same night, and each received a different and personal message. Could it be just a coincidence? Physical signs are also a means of communication. Some people find significant objects in unexpected moments, smell familiar aromas, or even witness inexplicable electrical phenomena. A woman from California reported that after her husband's death, she began to find coins from the year of their marriage in unlikely places. Whenever she needed support, a coin would appear. Another impressive case is that of David from Arizona. After his mother's death, a hummingbird began to visit the window of his office regularly. The connection was so strong that it seemed as if his mother still found a way to be nearby. The forms of contact are diverse, and each soul chooses the most meaningful way to manifest itself. Besides dreams and physical signs, there is another intriguing aspect of communication with souls: the use of intermediaries. Often, deceased loved ones find ways to send us messages through other people, especially children or more sensitive individuals. Small gestures and seemingly random words can carry profound meanings. For example, a granddaughter might say something that only her deceased grandfather and a family member knew, or a stranger might cross someone's path and say a phrase that brings a long-awaited answer. These coincidences, in fact, may be careful forms of contact. A striking example happened with Sophia, a woman from Michigan. For months, she searched for signs from her deceased husband, but could not perceive anything, until she started writing a journal and recording unusual events. That is how she noticed that always on days when she felt the most longing, she found white feathers along her path. Small details that had previously gone unnoticed began to make sense. The truth is that souls may be trying to communicate in subtle ways, but our agitated mind, full of worries, often prevents us from noticing. Another factor that can facilitate this communication is the environment around us. Creating a space of peace and connection can increase sensitivity to signs. For some people, moments of silence, prayer, or even listening to a special piece of music make all the difference. The story of Mary, a nurse from Ohio, illustrates this well. For years, she dealt with death in her work, but always in a professional and distant manner. It was only when she began to practice meditation and seek more spiritual connection that she noticed something extraordinary. The souls of deceased patients seemed to visit her in dreams or through small signs of gratitude. This teaches us that often receptivity does not mean anxiously waiting for a miracle, but rather being in a state of acceptance and tranquility. The more we try to force contact, the harder it becomes. Think about how our mind works when trying to remember something important. The more we insist, the more the memory seems to escape us. But when we relax, the answer simply comes. In the same way, contact with souls can happen when we least expect it, when our mind is open and calm. Another important point is that each person receives signs in different ways. Some clearly see their loved ones in dreams, others only feel their presence. Some receive messages through objects, while others notice signs in nature. David from Arizona perceived this in a very special way. After his mother's death, he noticed that a hummingbird repeatedly appeared near his house. At first, he thought it was just a coincidence, but the frequency and timing of its appearances always seemed linked to his thoughts about her. The main point is that there is not a single way of contact. The important thing is to be attentive and receptive. Many people ask if there is anything they can do to facilitate this connection. The experience of thousands of people shows that some actions can help. First, it is fundamental to maintain a harmonious environment. This does not mean performing complicated rituals, but simply creating moments of silence and peace so that contact can happen. Another way to strengthen this connection is to keep the memory of the loved one alive. Revisiting photos, touching significant objects, or even preparing a special dish that the person liked can create a powerful emotional bond. Communication with the deceased does not have to be something extraordinary. Often, it happens in the simplest moments of everyday life. Some people feel the presence of a loved one while cooking, working in the garden, or even during a walk. And sometimes, the signs can be so discreet that they go unnoticed. The key to recognizing them is not in expecting something spectacular, but in being open to perceiving the small manifestations. But what if the signs do not appear? Many people wonder if the absence of contact means that their loved ones have forgotten them. The answer is no. The lack of visible signs does not mean that the soul is not present. In some cases, it may be that the person is not yet emotionally ready to perceive these contacts. Grief and pain can create unconscious barriers that prevent this perception. Other times, the signs simply occur in a subtle way, and the person does not recognize them. The story of the Brownie family from New Jersey is an impressive example of this. Even after 25 years since their mother's death, they still received signs from her at important moments in their lives. This shows that the connection between souls is not limited by time or distance. The truth is that love transcends any physical separation. The bond with our loved ones remains, regardless of the way it manifests. It is essential to remember that every experience is unique. Some people feel a strong presence, others only a slight intuition. Some have striking dreams, while others notice small signs throughout the day. The most important thing is not to force anything. Contact happens naturally, at the right moment. Our task is simply to be open to noticing these moments and valuing them. If you have ever had such an experience or are waiting for a sign, remember that each connection happens differently for each person. Whatever your experience may be, know that the love of our loved ones never disappears. And if you have not yet perceived a sign, that does not mean it does not exist. Perhaps it is just happening in a way that you have not yet learned to recognize. Now that we have explored this topic together, I want to know, have you ever had a similar experience? Have you ever felt the presence of someone special who has passed away? If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to receive more content like this. Your support is essential for us to continue bringing topics that touch the heart and soul. Thank you very much for being here with me today. May each one of you find your own path to connect with those you love, even beyond this life. See you in the next video.